The best player in the world right now has one right in front of him. Can he get by it?
Well, we will find out. Sure enough, here we go. Take a look at the opening hands. That's a lot of land, but Paradise Druid and Nissa who shakes the world as the payoff for all of it. And on the other side, we've got Gilded Goose, Trail of Crumbs. So almost got the combo assembled there. Just need to find a kitty cat and an oven.
So it's a shrug there from Javier on the keep, but what I can tell you is he's got maybe the most important card in his hand in the matchup, and that's Paradise Druid. Secondary to that is Growth Spiral. He needs to go from 2 mana to 4 mana on turn 3 to start interacting, to get Nissa on the battlefield ahead of schedule, to play Nightpack Ambusher ahead of schedule, and as we'll see here, a Frilled Mystic can actually counter something. He, in this particular game, is playing a mid-range game more than a flash controlling counterspell game, given how his draw has lined up. Now, yes, Frilled Mystic can counter something, but this game's going to come down to Nissa and Krasis, and he could just win the game pretty easily that way.
Well, let's see if he can get there. Sure enough, we have a Cauldron Familiar in the hand of Piotr Głogowski. He's got Beanstalk Giant, Thrashing Bronzodon. Thrashing Bronzodon doesn't really have very many good targets in this matchup. Forest off the top there for him too, so he's almost got his engine assembled, just needs to find the Witch's Oven. But as you mentioned, we've got Frilled Mystic that can just counter anything of importance. It's going for the ramp, Fertile Footsteps, and it's going to get met with a Frilled Mystic. No ramp for you, Piotr, says Javier.
Yeah, in this instance, he's going to counter whatever was being played there. Mayhem Devil, who cares what it was going to be? I suppose Cauldron Familiar may have resolved, but outside of that, Frilled Mystic, because he wants to use all of his mana, get that on the battlefield, start to put a clock on the battlefield, and now he can follow up if he wants to with Nissa. It's hard to argue against it, but if you're not going to do that, you're of course going to leave Frilled Mystic up. But given the land that he played in Fabled Passage, I would think he wants to go towards Nissa.
Feels like he wants to get Nissa going, and he's going to say to Piotr then, okay, you have to have an answer for this now, otherwise I'm going to start running away with this game. Going to pump as much mana as I can into my Hydro Krasis, beat you on card advantage, and just beat you on the battlefield with all these creatures.
Yeah, what's interesting is Javier almost went to his attack step and decided, you know what, actually I am going to deploy Nissa, and I like this decision a lot because the way that you can rationalize this decision is, what can Piotr do that is better than this? Which is me playing a Nissa, turning a land in, and starting to pressure my opponent. Now for Piotr, he needs to do a lot on this particular turn.
He can Massacre Girl this
And Massacre Girl is the problem, and that is the scary card that can work itself into the equation
and the
now.
Casualties of War. So no counter for this Massacre Girl. Sorry, this is just going to be quite, quite a blowout here. For Javier Dominguez, take a look at his face. He realizes, yeah, that's the one card I didn't want to see on turn 5, but you know, he risked it and it didn't pay off for him, unfortunately. So losing 2 lands and his ramp, just Nissa who shakes the world left on the battlefield.
So that was the fear, but it's not the end of the world because Nissa is still on the battlefield. So the opportunity to drop a large high-grade Krasis here is available if he wants to go that route, which it looks like he may want to do. He's going to flow 2 green. He'll tap for 2 green. Of course, a 3/3 into a 4/4 is no good, so we're not going to do that attack. But we can do this in the interim, which is deploy a Hydrate Krasis for a large amount. You saw the Casualties of War that was drawn last turn. Because Gilded Goose is no longer on the battlefield, that is not a concern for Javier the next turn. And the Negate is a very easy card to leave on top with the Scry, because that'll take care of one of the 4 main deck copies of Casualties of War that Głogowski has.
So we've got the 5/5 Hydro Krasis, and
maybe not.
The gate's going to the bottom of the library.
Okay, a little surprised, a little surprised. But there are 2 copies of Frilled Mystic and a Sinister Sabotage, so he still has that particular card covered in this instance.
So Piotr has drawn the Witch's Oven, so he's got the Cat Oven combo, just missing the Gilded Goose to keep that engine ticking over. Things are looking pretty good here for Głogowski, but don't count out Javier Dominguez.
Yeah, I see Javier as advantaged right now. Głogowski has no land to play. Thrashing Bronzodon doesn't have a huge impact on the battlefield. Cauldron Familiar and Witch's Oven is a little bit slow to get rolling. And at the end of the day, there's no real clean answer for the 5/5 Hydrate Krasis right now. Yeah. As much as Massacre Girl would like to attack, not sure if that's an ideal thing to be doing right now either. So if I'm Javier, part of the reason that he deployed Nissa on the turn that he did is, okay, Massacre Girl could work itself into the equation. If that happens, am I still doing okay? As we can see right now, given his battlefield, he's still doing totally fine.
So the cat gets sacked and then comes back. Trail of Crumbs trigger off the top. He's going to find another Cauldron Familiar. That's going to enter battlefield 2. And now cats aplenty for Piotr Głogowski, an island off the top for Javier.
Yeah, but no good attack there from Massacre Girl. It would get double blocked by the land. Excuse me, it would get double. It would actually just wouldn't kill Nissa ultimately. So we're just going to hang steady there. Massacre Girl's not going to attack. Do keep in mind that it does have Menace. Javier draws an island. A land is a good draw step here. He's looking for more blue sources to be able to play multiple counterspells in a turn as necessary. Right now he can only play one of Frilled Mystic and Sinister Sabotage. So we continue along here. Again, I still think that Javier is favored and he wants to continue to push his advantage as best he can.
So now he's just deciding, does he want to run out this Nightpack Ambusher in the main phase, or is he going to wait to spring it in on Piotr's? Let's see who shakes the world. Will be bringing something up.
Yeah, it looks like he may be thinking about casting this on his own turn. Part of the reason for that is because he gets to, of course, use Nissa to untap a basic forest. So though that card does have Flash, you can play it at instant speed. You don't always have to. And now you get to make this attack in the air, solidify your defenses on the ground, and still have access to both Frilled Mystic and Sinister Sabotage.
Głogowski needs to find some land because he's stuck on 4 right now. He had the Goose to make the 5th mana for Massacre Girl, but that got massacred. So yeah, he doesn't have... I don't think he's going to get to Casualties of War before this Hydroid Crisis kills him.
Yeah, and even if he did get to Casualties of War, the chances of resolving are basically zilch. Yeah, so that's not the key card right now. The problem here for Głogowski, it's a lot of problems. Honestly, even if he was drawing lands, I think he'd have a problem. These counter spells have allowed now for Javier to play a mid-range game where he is heavily advantaged because he can pick and choose what he cares about. This is the position that Javier wants to be in with this deck, where he can decide, oh, this spell that you're casting, maybe I'll counter it, maybe I won't. Depends how much I think it actually matters.
Yeah. So we're going to get a sacrifice on the Cauldron Familiar. Going to create the food token, bring it back. Drain for 1. Finds a stomping ground off the top. Thrashing Bronzodon's going to enter the fray, but the Frilled Mystic says nope.
Yeah, and I like that play there by Javier because just get some of the cards out of your hand while you can. There's no reason to sit there with a Frilled Mystic when you have backup counter spells as well. So it's important to convert your resources that are in your hand onto the battlefield when you can. That's exactly what he did there.
So now we might see an all-out attack with the team here with the other land off of Nissa. 5 in the air. Too many guys on the ground. You got to think this one's going to Javier.
Yeah, I think that he should be able to win this game here. If he pluses the Nissa on one of his lands that is not already a 3/3, you're going to see 3 creatures get blocked there, Nightpack Ambusher, Frilled Mystic, and a land. So that should be 5 in the air and then 6 on the ground. Javier is going to check just to make sure with his math. In a situation like this, where you're 1 match away from the finals, you don't want to make an error, and I do not believe that he has made one.
Nope. Big red button, swinging of the team. There's the concession from Piotr Głogowski. Let's go to game number 2 in the upper final. One of these players will advance to the grand final, 1 step closer to their seat at Worlds or seats. If you're Javier Dominguez, he's qualified how many times now? He
looks
just wanted to
7,
make,
8, 9.
Like doubly, triply, quadruply sure that he got in, right?
There must have been like a 2-for-1 special in aisle 3 wherever he lives, where he's got all these world invites. I don't quite understand how he wins so darn much. Actually, I do. He's a phenomenal Magic player. Yeah. And now he's doing a little bit of sideboarding here, in which it's going to allow him to play a longer game and interact with his opponent. So you saw Seth Manfield against Miguel a little bit earlier in the day, bringing copies of Sorcerer's Spyglass. I'd be surprised if those don't come in, and it looks like they might be headed on their way in. What's interesting about the game of Magic is that 2 great players like Javier and Seth can approach the same matchup a different way. And so for these Sorcerer Spyglasses that were so effective for Seth, naming Witch's Oven, Javier hasn't even brought them in yet. Maybe he's just thinking about a couple different things. Maybe he's thinking, maybe I'll take an aggressive approach and bring in Lovestruck Beast. Yeah. That's the thing that makes this game great, is that Javier and Seth are so fantastic, and they both worked together on the deck, probably talked about the matchup before Javier began to play, and Javier is, you know, maybe a little of this, maybe a little of that, not quite sure how he wants to board. Now that other Sorcerer Spyglass is coming in, so he's thinking about a couple different things right now.
Well, we've seen Sorcerer Spyglass shut off the oven several times this weekend. It may get to do the same thing because you don't want to get that engine rolling. It can run away with the game, so let's see if Piotr can find more of the engine, if he can find his Mayhem Devil and just apply pressure that way. And hopefully not get countered to oblivion. But take a look at the opening hands. We've got Quench, Frilled Mystic, and a Nightpack Ambusher. Yeah, it's another really good hand here for Javier. When he was on the play, he wanted to push his advantage with Paradise Druid, which he was able to do. You saw that he sideboarded at least 1 copy of that card out on the draw because he may not have interest in, if he had it in his hand, tapping out on turn 2 because then a Mayhem Devil could resolve. So that means the shields would be down on a card like Quench, which he has now in his hand to protect himself a little bit here. So this hand is actually beautiful. His best draw step over the first 2 turns, for my money, would be Growth Spiral. Now the Quench is gone, so he wants to accelerate to 4 mana as soon as he can. So keep your eyes for Growth Spiral and Paradise Druid on the next turn. Trail of Crumbs to kick things off on the battlefield for Piotr after that duress. Dismissed of the Quench. There's another land off the top, so he's got 2 Trail of Crumbs and 2 Witch's Ovens. Just needs a little bit more creatures now. That's the thing that he's missing right now. No Corvold, no Mayhem Devil, no Gilded Goose, none of the goodies here. Now Trail of Crumbs can find all of those things, and I think it's going to have to be working overtime this game to do so. So just getting all the things down on the battlefield that would otherwise be countered. 3 mana on the battlefield. At 4, things start to get interesting, especially for Javier Dominguez. Another land. Unfortunately, he may look to chomping on one of those food tokens.
Javier is so fortunate this game that Piotr had nothing to do in the early stages of the game. He played Nyla last turn to kind of try to bluff a copy of Sinister Sabotage. We know, just like everybody does at home, that he had nothing on those first handful of turns, and Głogowski was not able to take advantage of that. And unfortunately, fortunately for Piotr, Javier has reached the flashpoint.
Yep.
4 mana, Frilled Mystics, Night Pack Ambushers, and some jerk that shakes the world could be coming really, really soon.
There's a kitty cat, and chances are we're going to see that poor little thing counted. But first things first, let's duress. This is actually a very, very good draw for Piotr. Able to duress, force a counter, use up all the mana of Javier, and clear the way for the cat to get going along with the second oven, so he can start to generate some advantage this way.
Yeah, this duress actually clearing the path a little bit here, and so far as Javier does need to interact with it. Now, the thing I will say I'm a little bit surprised about is it's what he's doing there is putting a priority on keeping Nissa. And so now he's going to want to convert as quickly as he can. So what that means to me, as now that Głogowski is empty-handed, is it's time. It's probably time to go to Nissa, who shakes the world, into Sorcerer's Spyglass, naming Witch's Oven, untapping a basic forest. It's time to really take a stranglehold on this game and get it over with.
Here comes Nissa, who shakes the world, animating that forest. We're going to swing in for a decent attack here, and then run out the Sorcerer's Spyglass, shutting down this engine that Piotr has worked pretty hard to get going here.
Dominguez with some good fortunes in the early stages of this game, but that's all part of playing this game at the highest level, and he's been doing it the best all year long. Now he's got a Spyglass that's likely named Witch's Oven. You're actually going to get a reaction there out of Kanister of like, come on, can I catch a break here? The answer is no.
So ideally for him, he finds casualties into a tapped out Javier, hopefully.
Yeah, that would be the hope right now. You'd be able to blow up quite a few things.
Yeah. So here comes Sorcerer's Spyglass. Witch's Oven is going to get turned off. The cat will come back at least one more time.
And he's got the requisite mana to cast it. 2 green, Castle Lockman, and a Swamp in hand. So you see the Murderous Rider that's in hand, that could take care of the Nissa. So that would be a step in the direction of killing that. But Casualties of War is that's the big hit right now if he's able to draw it.
Nope, that is a stomping ground, unfortunately for him. So he's just going to be able to take care of Nissa, which is a very, very big deal. As we've seen, she does run away with games. He can deploy the Murderous Rider too. Not that it helps him all that much right now.
Yeah, so what that does there, the Murderous Rider, well, I'll actually mention the Swift End portion of that, is that solves one of many problems on the battlefield. So as far as climbing back into this game, you know, Piotr is taking a step in the right direction, but Javier is starting to have a stranglehold on this because now he has the ability to, again, pick and choose what matters with the Frilled Mystic in hand. And if Głogowski if he plays something that doesn't matter, how about a Night Pack Ambusher instead? And I'll keep this Frilled Mystic in my hand.
Yeah, so the game very much in Javier Dominguez control. You can see Piotr's getting a little bit flustered. That Sorcerer's Spyglass was just way too much for him to handle right now, it seems. Here comes the Cauldron Familiar number 2.
Familiar is not that scary when Witch's Oven is not going. So you're going to see a Trail of Crumbs activation here. See if Głogowski finds something nice to add to his hand right now.
Oh, Mayhem Devil's okay. Would have been great if the Sorcerer's Spyglass wasn't a part of the equation, though.
Yeah, and that's kind of the big problem. And I'm curious if Mayhem Devil is cast this turn, or I suppose the next turn, if it will be countered or not. I suppose it could be played this turn since no land isn't played. So here's Stomping Ground. And yeah, this is a real decision here for Javier about if he wants to counter this or not, because the scary card is the one you mentioned earlier, and that's Casualties of War. Yeah. Because Casualties of War kills Sorcerer's Spyglass and a bunch of other stuff. It unlocks everything.
Yeah. Opens the floodgates up for Piotr. So I mean, Mayhem Devil's not that threatening right now.
It's not.
There's nothing to There's nothing. No sacrifice engine. There's no Gilded Goose. The Oven Shadow. There's no Corvold yet either. So it's going to resolve.
But as we've watched over the course of this weekend, these Simic players don't want that on the battlefield.
No, they don't.
It's a very, very scary card that they really can't get off of the battlefield. But now he can shift and start to take control of the game this way with Night Pack Ambusher.
Kenra's transformation,
Not
that'll
bad.
deal with the Mayhem Devil. Sure,
Yep.
it's still a 3-3, but it's not going to ping you every turn.
So what I think Javier is going to shift towards doing in this particular game is that Frilled Mystic is going, it says counter target spell.
Yeah.
I think it actually says counter target casualties of war.
Yes.
And almost nothing else right now at this stage. Now, if he draws another counter spell, then the narrative changes, of course. But for right now, that's the card he's probably most concerned with as he's going into the red zone.
Frilled Mystic swinging in just that card by itself. Probably won't see anything played this turn, though, because we'd like to get a few extra dogs on the battlefield, generate that wolf. Murderous Rider will chump block, trade with the Frilled Mystic. To the bottom of the library it goes, and there is puppy number 1. Gilded Goose now could change things.
Not the worst draw here because it does generate a food. So what's interesting now is that you could make an argument for countering things that generate a food because of Cauldron Familiar, Trail of Crumbs, finding additional cards, so on and so forth. It would be weird-ish to counter this card, but it makes a lot of sense, and it also allows Dominguez to continue to push his advantage as far as attacking is concerned.
Yeah.
So he will counter the Gilded Goose.
So the Goose will not be loose this turn, at least. Into the graveyard it goes. Frilled Mystic joins the Wolves on the battlefield. And that opens up the way for Cat number 2 and Mayhem Devil number 2. So if Głogowski can find another Goose off the top of the library, he's going to go for Castle Lochthwain now. Have a look.
Just some sort of way to get something that allows sacrificing and to kind of take place. But now this is where things get really, really tough because now Dominguez gets to really start to push his advantage where he is a deck that's kind of bobbing and weaving and countering certain things. One of the things that's powerful about the deck that he's playing is that you've got some real closing speed on the game and you can start to really start attacking your opponent, and that's exactly what he's going to do.
I love this attack. Because now Głogowski might be tempted to block this Nightpack Ambusher, but he's thinking, okay, you have to have the other one in hand, right? No, okay.
I mean, what Javier may think is this is needlessly aggressive. He doesn't have to push his advantage
no
this
such thing
much.
as needless aggression.
You're talking to a mono white aggro player here, Elias. Come on now.
You know then. If you can smork, you smork.
He's trying to kind of keep a few plates in the air. He's trying to balance things a little bit right now. So you see Cauldron Familiars are going to double block the Frilled Mystic, get that off of the battlefield. They like being in the graveyard anyway, so not a bad place for them to be.
Creepy little cats.
And
There's
I think
another puppy on the end step.
I think what's important there is Javier didn't want to play a spell for the Nightpack Ambusher trigger.
So we'll probably see the second Nightpack Ambusher flashed in on the end step. And then it's just gonna be puppy dog heaven.
Yeah, I would be a little surprised as here's a Mayhem Devil if Javier were to activate Castle Lantras because right now, again, Piotr really has nothing going on. Now he's empty-handed.
Yeah.
And now Javier can actually look at the entire battlefield outside of this Castle Lochthwain activation. So one sec.
That's a goose.
That's not bad. That was worst case. That was worst case scenario here for Javier.
All right, so the goose will be loose this time. Now, does he want to go for the scry, or does he just want to get another dog on the battlefield? We're going for puppy number 2.
Now, I like this, and the reason I like this is because you want to make your creatures bigger right away. Once Mayhem Devil triggers, start working themselves into the equation, so that's smart. Make it so that the Mayhem Devils have a lot more work to do. And now Kenrith's Transformation probably starts to work its way into the equation.
Are we just going to see a swing here?
Well, we're definitely going to see some attack.
Wait, Kenra's Transformation can make a 6/6 land, right? Okay. Never mind. It's going to go on a Mayhem
No, it's going to go on a Devil, yeah. It's going to slow one of those down. He also does get to draw a card, given the text on the card, which is very, very nice.
So here we go. Before it gets shut off, Kitty Cat comes back, sacrificing the food. We're going to get double triggers. It's going to go after the 1 Nightpack Ambusher. Can he get enough triggers off there, though?
I guess the thought process is, can I do enough to actually take this down?
Oh, I guess it's maybe just for the inevitable attack with all.
Yes, and what that also means is that Nightpack Ambusher, ooh, Gust is gross right now. That Ambusher may not attack, but that Gust was a nice draw.
That was indeed. So that can send back the Goose or the Mayhem Devil.
Yeah, I think you can barely audibly hear Javier kind of talking to himself about what should I do this turn, what kind of attacks can I make, can I even afford to send in the Nightpack Ambusher that has some damage on it?
If not, why not? Big red button.
Yeah, I think a little less this go around. So here come these knuckleheads. Do keep in mind, because he's cast a spell, Nightpack Ambushers aren't going to make tokens on this particular turn once his turn is up. But here you see the double blocking and the attacking that is taking place here, and Aether Gust could really muck this up here for Głogowski. So he's got to be very careful about his blocks.
Which one does he send back? The one that's been Kenrith or the other one?
I think we send back the other one. We go ahead and get that out of here. Głogowski cannot be thrilled about that. He was already in between a rock and a hard place, and it's not getting any easier for him.
So we're going to get in here for 7 points of damage. One more swing like this could seal the deal here for Javier Dominguez and see him through to yet another grand final.
Yeah, a familiar place for him, that's for sure. Yeah, this battlefield has evaporated, and stomping grounds is not good.
Do or die for Głogowski. He just drew a stomping ground. He can generate a food token, bring a cat back to try and help him out here, but you gotta think it's almost too little too late. Trail of Crumbs activation. What can he find off the top of the library to help him out? That's a Fabled Passage. That's not gonna do it. Will we find something else? Korvold.
Well, if there's one card that has been impressive all weekend long, it is Korvold. I don't know if that big creature can save him in this spot. I'm sure he certainly wants to try, but the lack of Mayhem Devils on the battlefield means that Korvold is not being maximized right now.
It's another blocker in the way. 5 attackers. 3 blockers unless we can find a food generation off of a Korvold draw.
Piotr going to think a little more here. I don't know if it's worth it to activate Castle Lockman in this spot. I'm leaning towards no. And if you play Korvold, you're entirely tapped out. Your Goose is already tapped right now, so it looks like you probably only have 2 blockers.
Yeah.
He's running the numbers, probably thinking about, is there something that I can top deck to get myself out of this horrible situation?
Well,
Korvold's the place to start.
Korvold Faker's King enters the battlefield. Is going to sacrifice something. Looks to be a land.
It's interesting. A land or an oven is of interest, but it looks like it's going to be a land.
What do we find at the top? That's a Lovestruck Beast, so that's another blocker on the battlefield.
Okay.
We get another draw off of the Fabled Passage sacrifice.
Yes,
another counter on Korvold. That's an Overgrown Tomb. Here comes Heart's Desire. No counters. Javier Dominguez is handless.
He needs to draw something good. So Javi's on the upkeep, thinking about Castle Vantress. Yep, Głogowski knows that if he can get through this turn, he might be able to win the game on the very next turn.
Edge of your seat stuff here. We're going to go for a scry, it seems. Very, very tense times.
How do you tap your mana for the scry? What exactly are you trying to find? Can you do, so let's see, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana. You have to use 4 of it plus the castle. So do you want to tap any green mana or not with your activation here? Does he still have Brazen Borrowers in his deck? I don't think he can activate the Castle Vantress and still find a Night Pack Ambusher. So he's got to use some green mana to do this. This is a very risky spot here for Javier Dominguez. This game, which he was so far ahead in, Głogowski is coming back in a very meaningful way.
Here we go. Scry off the top. What do we find? Leaving up 2 blue, 2 breeding pool. That's not going to do it. Mystery draw here for Javier Dominguez. Can he get the 2? Oh, that's a Chemist's Insight. No. So Głogowski survives if he attacks with all by 1.
Okay, so here we come with everybody if we're Javier Dominguez. So goodbye Night Pack Ambusher. Block 1 with the Cauldron Familiar. Block the token. Attack you for get 7 points of damage through. Put you to 1.
1 is not 0, Cedric.
It is not 0. So now, as some wolves get made, we go over, and he drew a goose.
Okay, a goose brings the cats back, gets more triggers, gets more draws off of Korvold. Głogowski is still in this. He needs to find something meaningful off this next draw.
Not only is he in this, he might be winning the game on this particular turn because we're also going to work ourselves into some Trail of Crumb activations and some Korvold draws. Now,
can we get a 14-14?
It is entirely possible in a spot like this. Yes, with the cats involved too, you get a little bit of drain and gain in that regard. So this is entirely possible here.
Oh, so many lands off the top there. I wonder what he was sending away. Must have been removal of some sort. Fabled Passage, trigger. Drawing another Korvold off the top. We'll get another trigger as Korvold attacks too. Can he get this up to 14? Can he get this up to 13 now?
Yeah, he's just got to get it up to 13. It's
we have
8
another
right now. You get a goose. He still has a goose activation.
Yeah.
The Witch's Ovens are shut off.
Yes.
He still has plenty of mana available. He's already played his land for the turn with the Fabled Passage, cracked that, so on and so forth. Very difficult. Very, very difficult. Goose activation, obviously, he's working into the equation, which can get back Cauldron Familiar. He still gets the trigger off the attack as well.
Tense times here for Piotr. He's fighting for his life against Javier Dominguez. He is not out, though, if he loses this game.
And it is also worth mentioning very quickly here that he does not have to win this turn.
No,
he can build a battlefield that allows him to block, and that's exactly what he's going to do. So Temple of Mystery now here for Javier.
Oh, I wonder what he'll find. So does he go for the Scry? Does he go for the Canisters?
I think starting here is the best place to start.
Okay,
Love Struck Beast, I'm not quite sold that's what the doctor ordered here.
He's got to find a way to deal with this Corvold. Because that's the scary thing right now. Okay. All right. What are you looking for here, Javier?
Corvold, the perfect card for Piotr to find. Not only does it allow him to stay alive for a turn, but it allows him to kill his opponent almost seamlessly in 2 turns. Couldn't get it done on that particular turn, but the following turn he almost certainly can. No flying blockers on the battlefield.
So we're just going to generate some more puppy dogs, I think.
Yeah, I mean, right now, Javier's deciding is there a clean way for him to attack? He's about to go to combat. He can take a look and line everything up. I mean, attacking with everything, get your Nightpack Ambusher killed and one of your Wolves or your Forest killed, and then you're able to knock down these Geese and the Cauldron Familiar, which you'd love to have off of the battlefield. But this is a serious problem right now for Javier. I don't think there's a clean way for him to cross the finish line.
I'm not sure if attacking here is the right move. I think he's got to find a way to deal with this Corvold first and foremost.
Yeah, if it's a no attack, it may be a no-win situation here for Javier.
Yeah.
I think the attacking was incorrect, so I like the fact that he did not attack at all. I think he assessed that aspect of the battlefield correctly.
Oh.
But if you're passing, that means you're probably losing, so that may have been a no-win situation regardless. And we just saw the Mayhem Devil show up.
Oh, yes, indeed. So Javier can throw out the Chemist's Inside, try and find a counter for it. But here it was also another food token off the Trail of Crumbs. So I think we're going to see a victory here for Piotr Głogowski, unless Javier can find something off of this Chemist's Insight.
Yeah, this is where it gets really tough. I think he needs to find something like Brazen Bar, or if he still has it in his deck. A Growth Spiral, again, is not exactly what the doctor ordered. You see a little bit of frustration there from Javier. This one is slipping away, and Mayhem Devil is going to pass it over to our blue-haired warrior up top. This is a brutal game to lose in this situation. Absolutely brutal.
So Mayhem Devil resolves, and we will see a concession here, possibly from Javier. Piotr is locking it up at 1-1 with Javier. This Corvold Fake-Cursed King applying too much pressure in the air. The cat's coming back to the food. The goose just generating more and more, sacrificing. And we've got the Mayhem Devil now just to keep pinging away at the life total. And there we go, concession. What a fight back.
Unbelievable game
Incredible.
there. And you can see Kanister is a little pumped up about it. Dance for me, big guy. Don't stop. Get it, get it. That was an unreal game win by Kanister.
Woo. It looked so sure there that Javier was just going to swing through, but that turn where he found Corvold off the top, managed to get the blockers out, generating the food, bring the cat back, saving himself by 1 life.
There is
Amazing.
a reason that Głogowski has not lost a match in this tournament. He wants to get into finals of this tournament. He wants to win this tournament with Jund Sacrifice, the last person left playing this deck here this weekend. I think the best player at playing it too. This is so in his wheelhouse as far as the mechanics of this deck. It's goofy, it's off the wall, it's everything he loves to do when it comes to playing Magic.
It fits him just right, and like you said, I think he is the best player to pilot this deck this weekend, so yeah, there's so much going on with it, so many paths you can take, and he has been just a joy to watch piloting it. So let's get ready here. Piotr Głogowski, Javier Dominguez. Game number 3 to determine who's going through to the grand finals. The loser of this match drops down into the lower bracket. They are not done, so we could well see these players play against each other again later on. But for now, let's jump straight into game number 3. Cedric, who are you liking this one?
Well, it's tough to pick against a player on the play, but I'll mention the same thing I mentioned in the first game. For Javier, is he's going to almost certainly send this hand back. I mean,
look at that face.
It's not a great look. I think he's going to send that back, and this isn't.
Better.
This is actually better. I take that back. I missed the Temple of Mystery. Remember in the first game, he was able to push his advantage with a Paradise Druid on the play. He gets to do the exact same thing in this particular game as well to get to his 4 mana spells ahead of schedule, and you already see the Frilled Mystic in hand.
Nice. All right, so we're off to a cracking start for Javier, as well as not looking too bad there for Piotr.
That card is incredibly important here for Głogowski because it allows him to keep up with Javier's ramping, which he was unable to do in the previous game.
Yes, he's got Cauldron Familiar, Witches Oven, Gilded Goose. Let's go. I want to see both of these decks doing what they want to do in this final matchup.
Now, what's interesting about this spot here for Głogowski is, does he want to play Cauldron Familiar, Witch's Oven, all that other stuff, or does he just want to say, Mayhem Devil, go? Because we know how good that is on the battlefield against the Simic opponent. It is very difficult for them to get it off of the battlefield. So there may be some interest in just saying, I'll use my food, I'll play Mayhem Devil, I'll pass the turn back, let's get this aspect of things set up.
Yeah, that's the way he's going to go. That's the correct call there, Cedric. So let's get the Mayhem Devil down, and then if he wants to counter one of the 1-mana threats, he uses 3-4 mana to do so and can follow it up with another 1-mana threat.
And so now, if you're Javier, you've got your Paradise Druid that's back on defense. It currently has Hexproof because it's untapped, but because how Mayhem Devil reads, sacrifice any permanent, deal damage to something, a player or a creature, Javier has to be very difficult with how he has to be very careful with how he uses the Paradise Druid. Because if that thing becomes tapped, it's almost certainly going to die.
Oh, yes. So first things first, Gilded Goose. Number 2 is going to join the fray.
And here's what's difficult for Javier in this spot. You're looking at 2 counter spells, Sabotage and Frilled Mystic, right? One of those cards costs 3, one of those cards costs 4. This card costs 1.
Yeah.
So that means if you counter this, what is the likelihood that Głogowski has something else to play? Extremely high.
Yeah.
So that means you get 1 shot at your counter spell this turn. You have to pick correctly, and the tough part is there may be no right answer about what you're supposed to counter. If you counter this, then Witch's Oven resolves. If you counter Witch's Oven, Cauldron Familiar and another copy of Gilded Goose resolves. So this is what makes him a world-class player. He's got to get this decision correct.
Tense moments here as he decides what is he going to counter. It looks, oh man.
Yeah, you do it with Frilled Mystic, your Paradise Druid almost certainly dies, and then you're behind on mana again.
So Sinister Sabotage finds a Growth Spiral on the top. It's going to go to the library. This clears the way now for a Cauldron Familiar or a Witch's Oven from Głogowski. First things first, let's swing in with the Mayhem Devil. This on the battlefield is quite frightening indeed, and we're going to follow it up with Cauldron Familiar.
You see his response.
Perfect turn for him.
Yep,
not happy.
You see his response because now it's all online. The engine is online now. Mayhem Devil, Cauldron Familiar, Witch's Oven. It's all out there. Also Gilded Goose. You're able to generate food with the Cauldron Familiar and, of course, add some mana. That means that Korvold may work its way to the equation sooner than expected here for Javier. And so Javier says, you know what? I need to throw my own haymaker.
Yeah.
I need to play my most powerful card, my Mythic Rare. Let's get Nissa out here. Let's make things difficult for you, and you have to focus on killing this card now. Otherwise, I can come back and win this game.
So Nissa shakes the world on the battlefield. An island brought to life. Witch's Oven sacrificing the Cauldron Familiar. Mayhem Devil's going to get to work on this Paradise Druid that is now tapped.
Yeah, almost certain. So Paradise Druid is the easy target to want to kill in this situation. 1 toughness, untapped, no longer has hexproof. I can just finish that off. However, if you are Piotr Głogowski, you have to think about, can I actually kill Nissa on the following turn with all my sacrifices and all my shenanigans? Maybe yes, maybe no. For right now, you see Javier, he's just going to be prepared to defend his Nissa with his 3/3 island.
So Island, you are on block duty. I don't think Piotr is going to send the Mayhem Devil at Nissa. I could be wrong. Oh, I don't know. I think that card's just way too important to throw at things. Try and ping it down.
It's very important to kill Nissa because Nissa, of course, the mana generation with that card, though, there is only 1 forest in the battlefield right now, but things are about to get out of hand right now. And you can see Javier's reaction as he leans back in his chair. He knows he's in a world of trouble. Korvold has shown up.
Yes.
And this may actually just, with Korvold and all of these triggers, we might just see this island die, and then Javier is very far behind with almost no chance to catch up.
Yes, indeed. So we're going to get a food token off the Goose Sacrifice. The kitty cat comes back. We're going to get the last ping from the Mayhem Devil. Another counter on Korvold. Another card drawn. This card has just been absolutely backbreaking.
Card's outrageous. It's completely outrageous.
Donkulous. Another forest off the top there. We got Mayhem Devil number 2. Javier needs to draw a land just to get one of these. Oh no, he's fine with Nissa, but if Nissa dies, Nissa will be dying soon enough. I think this Mayhem Devil damage is actually probably going to go upstairs this go around. The thing about these Simic Flash decks is they don't play well from behind. If we're even, okay. There are very, very small windows for them to play well from behind. This card here in Kanister's Transformation, it may help in catching him up, but boy is he in a lot of trouble right now. He is. So Kanister's Transformation is going to make that into a 6/6. No longer flying, no longer drawing card threat.
The land fights for us.
No good attacks to be had. Obviously, a 3/3 into a 6/6 by my math, not a good attack. So he's going to hold back in that regard. He's in trouble. He's in some serious trouble.
He does have Quench. He can counter something, but it's going to get paid for. So, yeah, he's in a lot of trouble here.
Depending on how it lines up, Quench could potentially counter something. Frilled Mystic is online right now. Green, the Force is going to tap for double green. Blue from the Island, blue from the Temple. So he has access to his 4 mana plays and the Quench, but he can only play one of these spells this turn.
Yeah. So Corval, the Elk King, or the Elk Cursed King, I suppose, is swinging in at Nissa.
Love this step here by Głogowski. How do I slow down and take care of Nissa? Step one, how do I shut off some of your spells? You have to block this. You have to block with your forest. If you don't, your forest only taps for a single green. You can't play your 4-mana spells, and that's going to win him the game.
To Piotr Głogowski, he is through to the grand finals, knocking out Javier Dominguez. He's going to the lower bracket, so not out yet for the reigning world champion. Congratulations to Piotr, undefeated still in this tournament.
He has not lost a match. If you could pick anyone coming in this tournament about what would they play, pick a player, what would they play, and lock it up, put a bet on it,